All right. Well, good morning. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is our Coffee with Candidates event that the Billings Chamber puts on. Really want to provide an opportunity for our membership and the public to come and hear more from those people running for elected office. So thanks for coming to hear from our candidates today. I want to also thank really quickly our sponsors of the event. They're on the table tents in front of you. CQ Fire and Safety, First Interstate Bank, KLJ Engineering, Western Security Bank, Rocky Mountain College, Phillips 66, Riverstone Health, ExxonMobil, BNSF Railway, Century 21 Hometown Brokers, Julie Seedhouse, and the MSU Billings Foundation. They help to provide our refreshments. And as a reminder, if you'd like to get up and grab a refill on the coffee or an extra pastry while we're doing this, go ahead and feel free to do so. I want to hand it over real quick to Mary with the Billings Association of Realtors. Has some good information to share, and they are obviously our host today, and we want to thank them for letting us utilize this great space. So I'll hand it over to you, Mary.
Thank you. My name is Mary Grant. I'm the CEO for the Billings Association of Realtors, and just wanted to let you know that we just received a $250,000 grant from the Realtor Relief Fund to help with flooding. So I went to Fromberg, I went to Red Lodge. But if you hear of anyone that needs, it has to be primary residence. Yeah. They will pay up to $2,000 toward either rent, a mortgage payment, or if you're stuck in a hotel, they will pay that hotel payment. And all of the rent and the mortgage will be dual pay, so it pays the person and the mortgage company, and then it pays the landlord and the tenant. But if you're displaced and have to go to a hotel, it actually pays them directly. So if you hear of anybody, we have $250,000 out there that we're trying to get rid of.
Nice. Wow. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mary.
Yeah.
All right, quick note on the format here. This is a forum, not a debate. We don't want the candidates going at each other. We want them to take this opportunity to talk to you, the public, and then in the latter half of the hour here to give you an opportunity to ask your questions. So have a little Q&A with the candidates. So we'll start off. I've got a number of questions here that we've sent off to the candidates already. They had the chance to answer our candidate questionnaire. So just to let you know, they have seen these questions. This isn't trying to have some gotcha moments, gotcha questions of the candidates. We really want them to talk to you about their platform, policies, and priorities. Each answer will be given 2 minutes, and we'll go in sort of a fantasy football snake draft order. So we'll probably start here with Carol, go to Mike, and then go back from Mike to Carol and back and forth like that. So we'll go ahead and get started with some opening statements. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, your experience, the district, why you want to get elected to go and represent constituents. And Helena, Ms. Borner, we'll start with you.
Fantastic. So my name's Carol Borner, and I am a candidate for House District 51. Just real quick, I'm a third-generation Montanan. I lived in the state my entire life. The longest I've been out of the state is like a month and a half. Anyhow, I was raised by my mom. My dad left when I was 7 years old, so I know what it's like to be hungry. I know what it's like to have a mom that's working 2 jobs to do things. She raised me to be very self-sufficient. I would say she forced me into engineering school, and I became an engineer, and I served as an officer in the U.S. Public Health Service for 26 years. I retired in 2014 with the rank of captain. It was a great career. I was assigned to the Indian Health Service my entire career, and I worked on 3 Indian reservations, Fort Peck, Blackfeet, and the Rocky Boys Reservation. And they sent me into a leadership role in Billings, and with that I got involved in, well, let me just say that the people aspect of my job was what I was much better at than the engineering part. I'm a good engineer, but I'm a much better people person. I was able to put together a $10 million project using 8 different funding sources, state, federal, and local funding sources to provide water facilities that we took water right out of Lower Two Medicine Lake, right outside of Glacier National Park, and provided water to the communities of East Glacier and Browning. And I facilitated the work among those government agencies. I was catapulted into customer service and leadership development programs within the Indian Health Service, which that really has become my love, is really working with people. And in 2014, I retired and took on an organization development. Time's up? Yeah. Come on, I've got like a 12-page CV, and you give me 2 minutes? All right.
Well, thank you, and we do have plenty more time to talk here. So, all right, same to you, Mr. Yakowicz.
Yes, hello everyone, Mike Yakowicz, running for House District 51, and nice to meet Carol for the first time, and thank you, Mr. Brooks and the Chamber, for bringing us together. I wouldn't be able to do that without you, and so thank you. And for the forum and everybody here who you all came to see Carol. All right. I just been married 40 years. We have 5 children. 4 are married, and we have 4 grandkids, another on the way. Got an awesome wife who, after 8 years of city council, I thought I was done with all this, and then she said, "You're no spring chicken, so go ahead and run again." So, in a long story short, we spent time with the Boys and Girls Club last week, and or yesterday, I'm sorry. And the thing about what I believe in is service, and that's what the kids resonated with me, is that I'm here to serve my constituents. I'm here to serve my city and my county. And I want to give Mayor Chuck Tooley credit, because he launched me onto this career, because when Stephen Bradley passed away as a city councilman, the mayor called me and asked me to consider being a candidate to replace Mr. Bradley, and there were about 10 of us. So I didn't expect Mr. Mayor Tooley to be here, but I have to give him credit for launching me on into this career of public service. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so like I said, we'll do kind of a snake draft format here, so we'll come back to you, Mr. Yakowicz, with this question. What are your 3 most important policy priorities? What do you hope the impact of implementing these policies will be?
So certainly all policy is to work with my constituents, right? So, and I know that there are 3 parts to being a legislator. One is to serve, one is to set policy, and one is to hold people accountable. So not everything in legislation is just policy. You're 2 years as a legislator, and so it's not a 100-day job. It should be a 2-year job where you're out in the field and you're meeting people and you're talking with people. Number 1, I would like to focus on local government and working with our city council, which is awesome, like Pam Purington and others who are all of them are great. Secondly, I'd like to work in behavioral health with the Department of Public Health and Human Services, because I've invested a lot of time in suicide prevention and behavioral health. And number 3, I'd like to invest in education. Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. Ms. Porter, same question.
So same question. I got into the race primarily because Montana's Constitution is at risk. And the more I read it, the more I think that we need to really embody it, and that we need to live into that Constitution, that it provides such a wonderful way of life for Montanans. And if we really, anyway, so I think that there's so many articles in that we haven't ever. I was a little kid in 1972 when it was put into place, and it'd be really great if we could actually embody it and fully fund education and protect and improve our environment. I'm also a big believer in fair taxation. My fellow Montanans in the last legislature obviously did not believe in fair taxation, because the rich got a much bigger tax break than most of you all. And housing. I think that housing is absolutely out of control, and that there is not affordable housing for people. And I'm going to be talking a bit about this, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that housing is a basic need. And when we aren't meeting the basic needs of our people, we are failing them utterly. And we really need to do something about that, because the rich are taking on Montana as opposed to allowing Montanans to have their basic needs met.
Thank you. All right, back to you again here.
Okay.
In a recent survey of our members, an overwhelming portion of respondents, 88.6%, agreed or strongly agreed with the statement. Generally, control and authority should be returned to local communities as the government closest and most responsive to the people. If you agree, do you have any ideas for returning control and authority to local governments? If you disagree, why do you think it's important for Helena to maintain control?
So another interesting thing about my fellow Montanans that served in the last legislature is that they talked all the time about giving local control until they disagreed with it. And when they disagreed with it, then they passed laws to assure that they had control. So my friends that are current city councilmen and my friends that are past city council people, I've been visiting with them about how we can do things. And Billings is different than Kalispell and Helena and the like. And we need to really be standing up for the communities that we come from. And that may mean standing up against my entire party. And I'm not opposed to doing that. I've been involved in an organization for a long time, and 7 years of it I served on a board, and this organization serves millions of people in the United States and Canada. And I've stood before 150 people and said, no, that is crap. This is the wrong place to do. And when you're one out of 150, you're not popular, and I don't mind not being popular. I never have been one of the popular girls, don't get me, So I'm really good with sticking up for Montana and the people that I represent. And I'm not afraid to go against my party. I'm not afraid to go against the entire legislature if it's the best thing for my constituents.
Thank you. Mr. Yakowicz, would you like me to repeat the question there?
No, great question. Great question. So for me, local control means city council, means county commissioners, means those who live within my city. So I would, one of my commitments already is making the effort to visit city council, to raise my hand, and I would like to be on the legislative board that the city council is making up between city council and legislators. I want to be a person who will be available to meet with them and talk with them and engage with them. Likewise with county commissioners, to be able to get to know them more, although we know them in some ways. Ask them, what are the policies, what are the things that we need to do to help them in Helena? So it's really, to me, very simple, is that I am here to represent my constituents, my city, and my county, and I want to empower them to the degree that I can, implementing what policies that they have in mind to help our city.
Thank you. All right, next question coming back to you. Billings voters passed a second safety levy in 2021, primarily providing additional personnel to our police and fire departments. However, much work remains regarding issues at the jail, sober living houses, the Office of Public Defender, and other areas of public safety. What do you hope to work on or see passed at the legislature to address safety issues in our community?
Right. Well, first of all, I want to thank the Chamber for supporting the mill levy. It's not easy, and actually thanking everybody for their paying in through taxes. So an ask is always hard when our citizens are investing. So segueing into our challenging situation here, what I would like to do is, again, work with the county commissioners on the jail and wrap our mind around that more, what we can do to make it better. A lot of law enforcement are struggling with that part of it. Behavioral health is another part of safety, and we need to work with the Substance Abuse Connect and others who are working like on a mobile unit to help people on the streets. There are a lot of creative ideas. I don't think I necessarily need to create new ideas as much as empower and support those already going on. I would, though, been working a lot in behavioral health, and we're looking at launching a bill on a substance abuse voucher. And the challenge is when someone is seeking for help, whether behavioral or substance abuse, usually you have to wait for insurance to kick in or Medicare or Medicaid to kick in. Well, through a voucher system, maybe through the Heart Fund, we could give people a voucher to get in quickly, because we know when people want to make a decision to change their life, it has to happen quick, or if you're waiting a week or a month, then they may change their mind. So that's it in a little bit, in a nutshell.
Thank you. Ms. Borner, would you like me to repeat that question?
No,
Okay.
I've got it. Thank you. So I have been a volunteer in the Yellowstone County Detention Center. I've been a volunteer in the women's prison. I've been a volunteer in the Shelby prison. I've gone in to help people in Deer Lodge. And all of the people that are incarcerated are really good people. And punishment is not the key. I think drugs and alcohol are a big issue for many of those people. And I would say that trauma and poverty are the gateway drugs. And 1 or 2 appointments for a person to see a counselor isn't going to do it. We need some deep healing of people's trauma, and it's a varying degree. That one person's trauma doesn't look like another person's trauma, but it still is their trauma. And if people's basic needs aren't being met, then that causes them to go to drugs and alcohol because they need a break. So, fun fact, Sunday there were over 100 calls for the Billings Fire Department. And Sunday was an odd day because there was a lot going on. However, I think most of the calls for the Billings Fire Department are around mental health. I know for a fact that it is because I know somebody. And so maybe more on a typical day is like last week that they had 60 calls. And you're sending a fire truck out to deal with a mental health issue when really we need to have some people, again, healing the trauma. The interesting thing is that we're at a real crisis in the country with mental health because we've got a phenomenal number of therapists that are killing themselves. So there's not therapists available. The therapists are booked, and thank you. And it takes forever to get in.
Thank you. All right, next question coming back to you. Global crises have highlighted the need to expand domestic energy production and transition to renewable and other energy sources. What can Montana do to ensure we have access to affordable and reliable energy while planning for and transitioning to a less carbon-reliant energy future?
Fantastic. So if you drive by my house over here in Josephine Crossing in the district, you'll see that I have solar panels. It is the best thing since sliced bread because the sun beats down on my solar panels, and I get to provide electricity to my house and kicks them back so you all can use it too. And I think that we need more of that. I think we need to have businesses to. I think we need to expand the tax credits that businesses get for using solar panels. I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of wind, but whatever. But I think we need to make sure that businesses can. Have access to the solar panels and the DEQ. There's DEQ funding, a revolving loan program. Maybe we make that no interest loan as opposed to 3% now. But if imagine if we had. I'm just going to pick on Basecamp because I love them and they're a local business. Imagine if Basecamp had solar panels up on their roof, and because that's a great roof to have it on. To be honest with you, but they could do, I don't know, it just seems so much that we could help we could get electricity to Northwestern Energy, opposed to what my friends in the legislature did the last time, was let Northwestern Energy off the hook to use alternative energies. So they went to other forms of energy. So anyway, I'm a big fan, obviously. You see my solar panels, I'll show you my solar panels anytime you want. It takes about 4 seconds. Anyway. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Yakowicz?
Yep. Also, a very important question about energy. So I use the energy all the time, so I'm very grateful for those who provide the energy. So I think it's always important for me and representing the state to appreciate those who provide the resources, whether it be oil, gas, and other means. So I really appreciate what they do. We receive a lot of money, $13 billion indirectly and directly over a 2-year period from energy rebate, taxes and other things into our city, into our state. So it's very important for us to acknowledge that, or important for me to acknowledge that. The The idea of this implementing policy, especially as a legislator, it really behooves one to really investigate more what that means. I've been meeting more with people with Northwest Energy. You meet with people who do oil and gas. You meet people with alternative energy and try to figure out what is the best policy for our state. I have to say that it's a learning curve for me. I'm no expert in this area, but I also realize that there are players out there that we can learn from. So I reflect on this is that we have means of bringing more gas and oil into and through our state. I would not be adverse to that. I believe that we need to really empower all kinds of sources. However, the last point would be baseload energy, and that is something that I'm learning a lot about, is that baseload energy is that energy that comes about really quick. So like water and coal or gas in that area quickly spins the wheel. Solar, wind, although good, is sometimes very unpredictable. And when we go off the grid, let's say not enough of one, they have to buy energy for us. And if the energy is very expensive, our bills go up too. So my bottom line for my constituents is how do I make the energy low, or the cost of energy low? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're about halfway through our hour here, and I do want to open it up in case anybody's got a burning question that they'd like to ask. And just as a quick reminder, please format those questions in a way that both candidates can answer the same question. Okay, and I'll repeat it here so we've got it on the audio here. In order to help address substance abuse and mental health, how would we help to build capacity, potentially through a voucher system, in order to address that challenge?
Sure. So one thing I know, visiting with the police downtown, it's called the MAP program. There actually are beds available at Rimrock. So there are beds available. There's 10 beds available. And actually this program is really working well from what I understand. Those who need help downtown are taken to Rimrock and given that help. I agree with you. I agree with the person asking where is the capacity. And so we need to work on that level too, but also we need to work on the opportunity for people to enter into such places. It's not only necessarily Rimrock. There are other areas, for example, whether something like sober living, something else that is an alternative to help people, whether it be even AAA or AA or other aspects of that, we need to figure out how to get them, make it more available. What I'm learning too with the question is that I'm working with the behavioral health leadership. And so that leadership from the Yellowstone County Behavioral Health Local Advisory Committee gave me that suggestion. So I'd be happy to bring that back to them as well. I'm not taking credit for it. I think it's a great and innovative idea. And so I think the point being is we have to be creative. We recognize there's a problem. This may not be the golden apple, may not be the exact way to solve it, but we have to think outside the box.
Thank you. Ms. Warner?
Yeah, so, I think that it might work to have a voucher system. I don't know. I think that part of it is that, and I've done a lot of work in this arena over 30-some years, but I think that we may even need to just blow up our ideas about it. That we may need to start over because, the idea of abstinence is what people focus in on, and that is, and people even use it to shame others that oh, you drank, I'm going to shame you. So I think that we need to get to a place where we actually get to the place. We need to get to the place where we're healing people as opposed to that. So, a voucher program may work, but there may be other creative ways to work. You may not need a therapist. Plug for myself. I'm certified, almost certified. I got one more hurdle to go through. A psychological model called internal family systems, and it absolutely has healing effect. Now, you don't necessarily need to be a therapist to do that. You can we can employ personal development coaches. We can also do group together. That Rimrock's may be great, but it's an abstinence model. It's based on what may be even an archaic model of recovery. I don't know. I guess what I do know is that we've got to do something. Therapists cost about $170 a session, and they probably really need that $170 a session. But we've got to find some way to actually provide some funding. A voucher program may be great, but I don't think it's a question that anyone can answer in 2 minutes.
Well, thank you for trying.
Yeah,
Thank you
okay,
for the
Mike.
question. Any other questions from the audience right now? Yes. All right. So to repeat here for the audio, considering the overturning of Roe v. Wade at the Supreme Court, what are your goals and priorities as far as addressing that issue here locally at the state level? And we'll start with you, Ms. Bourne.
Okay, all right, I was just waiting to see where we start. So I think that is a very complex, very messy issue. And I don't believe that government should be involved in it in any way, shape, or form. The Montana Constitution calls out the right to privacy. And I believe that, as does the Supreme Court of Montana, believes that that falls under the right to privacy. I have my own personal views about abortion, but you know what? They're my own personal views. I think that what I'm seeing out of in a platform that it's just going crazy. That my constituents that I've been knocking doors with are terrified that their wives are going to die because twice they've had pregnancies that were life-threatening. And to think that that I would have to have a say in that is utter crap. I had to, I had to pull back the word that I was going to say. But it's like, come on, people. It's such a, I don't know. I'm the youngest of. There's 10 years between me and my brother, and I don't know. I don't know. It's just it was my mom's decision to keep me, and I think that that's where it ought to lie. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Yakowicz?
I appreciate the question, and it is a very personal issue. I am a pro-life candidate. I have various values that I stand for and principles that I stand for. I would consider thinking about my daughter or my, someone close to me if they were facing rape or facing some kind of incest or medical complications. That would be for me another story to look into that. It's very sensitive. Most of you here are women, and I know maybe it is something that resonates with men and women. I have to say also that on the doors, it's not as much of an issue. On my doors, it's public safety. That's number one for them. They're concerned about taxes. They're concerned about their livelihood. They're concerned about education. This is very much an important issue. We know that the Armstrong case in Montana is there, so it is legal here in Montana. Very complicated. I think that's why, as for many of us here who are candidates or legislators, this is an example of what it takes. It takes fortitude. It will take a lot of thought, whether on this issue or in others. And I commend all of you for running, because those are the issues that we're going to face. And whether we go with the party or against the party, I think that you'll have to follow your conscience as well as what is best for your constituents. So, very good question.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, what are your views on helping the rural poor? Any policy ideas that you may have? Mr. Yakowicz, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I live on the south side, and so the lower income. So I see that all the time. And we engage in that through 26 local organizations that are around the south side, helping those who are in need, from whether it be Riverstone Health to Family Promise, Family Tree, Family Service, Food Bank, and all those ways. So one of my goals would be to understand more of the needs, like working through Riverstone Health or through medical people like yourself, and understanding the situation. I don't understand the situation in the rural Montana, so it would be a learning curve for me to understand that. But I could segue into the fact that I understand the poor in Billings. And I would focus myself first on my constituents, which part of that is the south side, which I have continued to do over the years, whether it be through substance abuse prevention education or working through Riverstone Health through Healthy by Design. What are ways can we entertain looking into Medicare, Medicaid, different ways of providing access and support? It's a great question, and I think that we need to really continue to focus on where my district is first and continue to take care of that area that is in greatest need. And I have to say, walking the area, there's some that I almost would cry seeing the poverty in parts of my district that I really want to continue to roll up my sleeves and figure out what can I do to help.
Thank you. Ms. Borner?
So I have spent from 1988 to 2004. I spent, I was either working on or living on Indian reservations. So I know exactly what the rural poor do. And I think that, to the point is that, I live in District 51 right over here in a pretty nice house, but there are varying degrees of wealth in that district. There are, people that are extremely poor that their basic needs are not met. And so I want to talk about meeting their basic needs. So going back to the Indian reservations, people always said, well, they get a check every month. Well, that is absolutely bullshit. Oh, sorry.
Cut that.
Cut that. And give me back. I'll reclaim that time as well. But the thing is that we need to do something to make sure that people have their basic needs. So maybe there's something that we need to do to provide them some kind of a tax credit so that they are elevated such that they can, themselves provide the food, get shelter and the like. And I think that would go back to solving some mental health problems. That if your basic needs are met, then life is better. So maybe there's a creative way that has been done in many other cities that provides some income to people such that they can get their head above water so that they can have a fruitful, vibrant life as opposed to really on a daily basis just struggling for food. Yeah, I think that there's a ways to do it to help elevate their status.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. If I could hope to ask that once more. Essentially, where would you and maybe who would you draw from for that information and influence needed to help make good decisions? And what is your appetite for crossing party lines if necessary to appropriately represent your constituents? We'll start with you, Mr. Yakovich.
Yeah. So great. Another, very good question. Like in City Council, we deal with many issues. It's not just health care. It's all, and we're going to be dealing with even more issues in Helena. So I believe in going to sources. So there'll be people I'll talk to in housing here in Billings, or people I'll talk to about medical. We go into Riverstone Health. We have these connections in different ways. I'm on several boards. If there's a veterans issue, I'll go to my contacts with veterans. And so that it's a great question, and I think we all should be available to have all these different connections to talk with them and gain wisdom. I actually attended the GOP convention a couple weeks ago, and there's clearly not everyone agrees with each other. I think, I would hope, and I think that all of us who are running for office are mavericks. We're not blind followers. I would hope not. And so, we need to decide on issues, and I go by this way. It's my constituents and my conscience. It's my city, it's my county, and it's my state. I'll go that way. My priority is my constituents over my city over my state. So that's how I look at it. And finally, in the end, as I'm sure when you make the final decision, you have to, push the button. And you hope that you make the right decision. So I will look at it as an array of mentors. I don't have just one mentor like Dan Brooks. I have many, many mentors, from city council to county commissioners to behavioral health, and we should do that. We shouldn't think that we're an island on ourselves and that we're going to make all the decisions ourselves. It really is a team effort when we do make the final decision.
Thank you. Ms. Borner.
So, I think it's a great question. I think that there's, I guess, what I tell people when I knock doors is that I want to hear their concerns. I want to listen to them. And one of the reasons I'm running is because I am sick and tired of calling my representative and not getting a response. I am sick and tired of emailing my representative and not getting a response. I would even take a screw off as a response happily, as opposed to, just being unseen and unheard. And I think that the people need to be seen and heard. And I think that we need to have. So I'm big into. I've got a master's degree in organization development. And I'm big into bringing people together and hearing from them. I think it's great to have mentors, but I never want to be owing a mentor. I never want to take that because I have in my life that I've had mentors that this is where you need to think. Well, that's not true, and you also got to consider the source. Okay, so somebody that is living on over on Bunting Street is going to have a different idea about housing than somebody living in my neighborhood right over here in District 51. They're going to have much different ideas about housing, but hear from both of them. And contractors especially are going to have a much different idea about housing. And so how do we bring everything together and and I'm not awfulizing contractors, because there's a lot of them that are working pretty hard to make things happen. So back to the party line thing. As I said earlier, I've stood up and been the only one in the room of 150 people that said, no, we can't, and this is why. And I'm good with that. I don't really, it's not a popularity contest for me, because I've never been popular.
Thank you.
Until the election.
All right. Last kind of question here. This is kind of a concluding remarks. Address anything that you'd like to follow up on, or if you'd like to answer the question, why should voters choose you? We'll start with you, Ms. Borner.
Because I'm cute as hell. So why voters should choose me is that I'm for the people. I am absolute, everything I support is about people. My whole life has been about people. Even my engineering career has been for the people, fighting for the people, fighting to make sure, in my engineering career, fighting to make sure that people in Browning and East Glacier had safe drinking water, fighting to to help people that in the correctional institutions that I volunteered in for years, fighting to help people improve their lives. And I'm willing to do that for my constituents, for my state. I am scared to death of what's going to happen to our state. I see that our fine Constitution is on the chopping block, and I see that that people are just going to fall in right behind, right in line with the governor and with what their party leaders say needs to happen, and we're going to lose the state that I've lived in for 60 years, and it greatly saddens me. So, vote for me.
Thank you. Mr. Yakowicz.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brooks, and the Chamber for hosting this. I'm very optimistic. You know, I have 5 kids and 4 grandkids, and I mean, I've been shot at. I've had to deal with a lot of things living in Billings, addressing drug houses, drug dealers, to investing time with helping the poor in the community. Yet I remain very hopeful and very optimistic. Also, as I shared with the youth yesterday, what is a public elected officer or elected person? It's a public servant. Why I'm running is to continue to serve. I say the highest level of service is if you walk around your neighborhood and pick up litter. That is a true leader. I continue to invest in many boards. I'm on several boards right now. From suicide prevention to behavioral health to working, helping with the Southside Senior Center to the task forces. All these ways are to serve. The legislation is just another step, an honor and an opportunity to serve my constituents, to serve the people in the community. Already this summer, I've been working on a trailer issue. I've been working on a pole in an alley issue. Some elderly man called me, said he's worried that his house is going to be taken away from him. So I did research with the clerk and recorder. I said, "Why are you calling me?" He says, "Because you always answer the phone." So legislation, why I'm running is to serve. It's no pie in the sky idea. It's hard work. It's not going to be just 100 days. It's going to be 2 years at least. It's going to be reaching out to your constituents on an ongoing basis. It's being available for them. And it may be doing things like, you know, they want to put a crosswalk around off 32nd Street. I said, I'll go find out about that. And so we can do it. And I found out, I called Mrs. Maylene, she's the head of the department, which is very important for all of us to know who to get a hold of, right? Because a lot of what we do is a we thing, it's not a me thing. So she called me back and she said, "Oh, Mike, it's already going to be done on 36th Street. So I called the constituent and said, we got it done. And I said, to the credit of the city, to the credit of the city council. So working will be a partnership. It's not an I-ship, it's a partnership working with other legislators, with city council, county commissioners, and the leadership in our community. So I'm here to serve is my goal.
Thank you. All right, will you help me in thanking our candidates for coming today? And thank you all for coming. Thank you for the great questions. I'd like to thank our sponsors once more, our host here, the Billings Association of Realtors. Our next Coffee with Candidates will be next week, Wednesday.
Yes.
Wednesday at 8 o'clock at
Hilton Garden Inn.
Hilton Garden Inn. All right, please join us for that one. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.